The Team Never Quit podcast is sponsored by Navy Federal Credit Union. At Navy Federal, our members are the mission. Find out how they can assist you with buying a new car or purchasing a new home. You can learn more at NavyFederal.org. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Team Never Quit podcast. As always, thank you guys for listening and watching, and please go hit that like and subscribe button wherever you get your show. So today we kick it off, before we kick it off with our awesome show that we have coming up, let's kick it off with our Patreon question of the day, which is, I like this one. So what is your favorite conspiracy theory?
Oh boy!
Oh,
That's a tough
I mean,
one.
we can do a whole show.
Yeah.
Sitting around here.
What
So-
you got, Marcus?
Hey, Sammy, go ahead.
I gotta say, like the whole Illuminati thing, like Jay-Z and Beyonce running the world with Hillary.
that's a
I love
crazy
that.
one.
I love that.
The flat earthers.
You're a flat earth. You're
Oh, hell
down
no.
with that?
I don't really
Well, that's your favorite one?
Kyrie
Well,
Irving is.
Well, just people trying to prove it, you know, just like Sam said with the Illuminati
Yeah.
and flat earthers.
That's a good one. What about you, Marcus?
I love the pyramids, man.
I was going to
Well,
say
that's
the
a good
same
one.
thing. That's
What's
my
the
favorite.
conspiracy?
What it
That-
is,
Whether they were
what-
built by aliens.
Yeah.
Oh.
Or at
The
least
orig-
had
the original-
extraterrestrial
the original
help.
The Giza, the Great Pyramid, right?
Mm-hmm.
I
Conspiracy.
just fascinated by
Yeah.
that whole time period because we're closer to Cleopatra in age than she is to the pyramids, right?
Yeah,
King
they,
Tut.
I mean, yeah, that's the
Yeah,
thing.
thank you, yeah,
I think it was
so-
like the Egyptian Historical Society or whoever runs that side of that thing over there. They're trying to attribute the building of those pyramids to the wrong people.
Right. See,
Or
here's
who
what
built
the deal
them,
with my
or the
education
Sphinx
is I'll
even.
get you in the right time period, but if you want like the exact date and protocol, I'm not your guy.
Yeah.
You know, there's smart guys for that. They give this. It was at 6.2834.
Yeah,
that
yeah,
kinda-
yeah.
So
I don't know,
That's a good
conspiracy theory. I mean, I still personally, the JFK thing to me is
Yeah, I was
pretty
thinking that
interesting.
good one.
There's a
I thought they were going to square
'Cause
that
there's so
away
many
when
different
Trump
angles.
See,
got
that's the-
in,
this is
and then
why
everyone
I-
got
yeah.
quiet again.
This is why I
Yeah.
don't think it's a conspiracy.
Right?
Yeah.
It's because when they were supposed to release everything, they didn't release it.
Right, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's
So
what
if
I
you
thought. There
wanna
was,
keep
like,
a
an
conspiracy
They
yeah.
made a
going,
big
that's
deal
one way
out
to
of
do
it.
it.
That's exactly right.
They cracked the tape on the secret envelope and they went like, oh, man, we gotta put that, let's put that back under the covers.
Right? I think Trump and Clinton both did that, right? So if them dudes were like, hey,
Yeah.
yay,
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
it must be something good.
This
Yeah,
is
Jim.
on a need-to-know basis, and
Yeah.
nobody needs to know.
That's right.
I wonder if that's like because some people are still alive. Because if everyone was
Has to be.
dead that was
Good point.
associated with the conspiracy,
Has to be.
they'd be like, fuck
In
it.
our history, the way it is, we would accept it.
Yeah. Well, there's nothing you could do now.
There's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like with everything else. I mean, it's in the past. We learned from it, but
Yep.
I mean, they're just how. Oh, I got one for you. Somebody and I were talking about the other day because they just came out that we have aliens, and they got the ship and stuff like that. And I was like, well, in Area 51, there was a radio show that came out, War of the Worlds.
Oh, yeah.
Freaked everybody out. Just a simple radio show.
Was that Orson Welles?
Orson Welles, thank you. Yeah, it has that great voice, and
Oh, yeah.
and then now.
There's
You actually
another-
have our leadership saying it, but everyone's so desensitized to it because of the movies that we got. It's just kind of like, I mean,
Yeah,
I feel like
true.
it's,
Yeah,
you know
I
what
think
mean?
it's strange
Totally
because
desensitized.
you gotta, this entity that we call the government, right? That disseminates information, and from this point to this point, they're like they don't exist, and then all of a sudden they just turn 180 and go, no, they
I
exist,
want to
and we have the
believe.
crafts, and we have the bodies.
Yeah.
So I
All
think-
them stories, oh, man, they're true.
Well, that's how they had to wait because I mean, if they're still alive, there's some the generational. That's how you can tell there's a change coming. Because
Yeah,
when
yeah.
that stuff that they've kept that tight when one generation's growing up and there's that transition to power, which we're going through now between the baby boomers and us, you're starting to see that.
You know what's strange? I don't know if you guys feel this way, but the people that, and not the Fravor guy, I think his name's Fravor or the jet pilot that said he was chasing him in his airplane.
yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Not him, but this latest guy that they put in front of Congress, I think it was. Looking at that guy, and no offense to that guy if he ever watches this, but you're like, come on, dude. like I don't know what it is. So in the movie business, right? Our whole thing is to be believable.
Right.
Right? The camera's rolling. You're supposed to be so and so. You're saying this. You got to make it believable. And as we were talking about for the last couple of days is tone, right? The authenticity of tone, what you say, right? Like I don't know if your old man ever said something to you that was serious and important. Man, he could have said ice cream, bubblegum, bunny rabbit, but the tone he put behind those words, you know that tone. You know what I mean? So when I listen to some of these guys talk about the aliens, I'm like, this guy's full of shit.
You know who wrecked that? Y'all did.
Who, the movie people?
Yeah, the actors.
Come on, man.
You know why?
Hey.
Because you do such a good job to be so believable that when a real person comes in to do it and they don't know how to act.
Yeah, oh, well, you're saying, we spoiled it. We spoiled it.
That's not a spoil. I mean, now
to
be believable.
Yeah.
I gotta bring it back in real
Yeah,
quick.
yeah.
To be believable.
Conspiracy theories.
I completely get what you're
We'll
saying.
get lost.
We gotta
But you know what I
get
mean?
that.
I absolutely
you
know
could
what
have
you
hired
mean.
someone better to do this.
I know. We joke about that. I was like, that's the guy who's going to tell us this, and it's like, man, I know it. And
Call me up. Call like
and
some
then
of the
what
good
you see in
people
the
up,
movies,
and then
it's
we'll
got
tell you.
Let's introduce Johnny.
Let's get to it.
Marcus got
We
lost
can
in
go
the
on that
conspiracy.
forever.
man.
It's good, right?
Hey, man, I'm there with you, brother.
Let's get some intros going.
So today we are joined by an amazing group of people that came from all over the U.S. We'll start with Samantha Bonilla, who is an amazing Marine. We've got Mikey Sauers, U.S. Navy SEAL, co-founder of Forged and the Mike Murphy Challenge. And then last but not least, the one and the only Mr. Johnny Strong. He's an American actor, composer, musician, and now a movie director.
And that's your given name.
It is.
That's pretty tough,
Imagine
man.
that, trying to grow up.
How was
with
that grow up like? Is that like Sue? So people always test in that package?
Oh, you don't. Sorry about
Just
that.
curious, man.
I had dinner with a man named Sue LaRue. I don't know if you know who that is.
I don't. But how was the conversation? Did you bring it up?
No.
You didn't even talk about it?
No. It was with like.
I feel like it's a missed
It
opportunity.
was some
Cool
like.
story.
There were some ground branch dudes there. There were some ex-SF dudes or former SF dudes there, and he's got Sue LaRue's got a crazy story about the Foreign Legion, and some crazy stuff. Maybe I shouldn't talk about that on here, but yeah, Strong, man. Try to grow up with that last name. Probably same growing up with Richard as your first name. I mean, a lot of complications.
we had one of the guys that was started with us. His last name was Hooks, and he named his kid Steel. Yeah, white kid in Hawaii. So you know he's going to be tough.
That's a tough dude.
We have kids. We gotta have cool names.
You got to hook them
cool
up.
names.
Hook them up. Like I hook my kids up. I got a hunter and an axe. And
Killer.
Adelaide is a daughter. Are you even kidding me? How cool is that?
Everyone's naming their kid like Maverick now.
There's some good
Totally
ones.
stole it.
Yeah, Sydney named her kid Rip, just like the kid. But I mean, it's
Love it.
You can't just be making that up on the spot anymore.
That's good, man. Because
So-
these younger generations, they got some great skills. Their capabilities are far beyond. We may be hybrids, the Gen X guys, but whatever these.
Yeah, I
suckers
wonder
are.
though. Primitive skills. Like, I think the older you go back, the more primitive you commit, and then now these next generations are more. They might be more tech savvy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like sometimes like there's a younger guy in the room. It's like, hey man, I'll give you your phone. Like, can you figure out how to do that social media stuff? You know?
Yeah, but are they the ones that are tearing it up in the Mike Murphy challenges? I mean, what age group is that? Is it the tech? Is it the same generation?
Yeah, I mean,
Just
just
tech people.
well, just like in athletics, younger people usually tend to do
They
that.
didn't get involved with anything.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Now you see him. I heard Wahlberg or was it Elon's wanting to fight Zuckerberg? Right? Is that would never happen back in the day?
You know,
Virtual fight.
you want to talk about conspiracy? Okay, I'm a black belt. I'm a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I want to talk to the Jiu-Jitsu community real quick. I think that whole thing with Zuckerberg and Elon Musk and the Jiu-Jitsu and the training, especially Zuckerberg, I think that is a conspiracy all unto itself, to where a guy that an entire swath of humanity was like, that guy's a lizard, F that guy, As soon as he comes out on Joe Rogan, I've been doing jiu-jitsu and it's the best thing in the world. Now you got an entire swath of people going, yeah, that guy's great.
That guy
that's-
is not real.
Yeah. Hey, you know what I mean?
Have y'all met her?
I wish.
Have you?
no.
I'd like to find out what she's on.
Yeah.
We did.
So
Run it, yeah.
you said you're a black belt in jiu-jitsu.
Yes,
How'd you
correct.
get into jiu-jitsu?
Well, I've been doing martial arts since I was a kid. We were talking last night about Kung Fu movies.
Who got you in there?
Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee, man.
What
That was
movie?
it. Enter the Dragon.
Yeah.
I think that was the first one, and then I got into Fist of Fury and all his other stuff. And like I was telling you, my father worked with Golden Harvest, Raymond Chow, and those guys. And so Bruce Lee was kind of in the, I don't know, the workspace of my growing up, you know. So I got heavily into that. And there was a judo place that I went to go learn judo when I was a young man.
Because that's what it was back in the day, right? There was this.
It was like specific, like so.
It wasn't all this what we
Yeah,
have this
so
day and age.
Bruce
We
Lee's
didn't
stuff
have
was
all that.
called Kung Fu. So if you were doing any Bruce Lee stuff, it was considered Kung Fu.
Right.
And then if you were doing, it was
Right.
Like
I understand what you're saying. It's like Coke and Pepsi. Like we all one thing. That's okay.
Soda,
Yeah.
right?
Soda. Right.
So, or what do you guys call it in the South? Pop.
Pop.
Yeah. Okay. So, and then
Northeast,
you know that's what I followed that martial arts kind of lineage of Jeet Kune Do and Bruce Lee, Kung Fu and Judo and stuff, throwing people around. And then,
Like, did it eat you up? Was that your thing?
man,
Or is
it's
it just
hard to
part-
tell. You know, for me, it's a creative thing. It's a creative expression where I'm not really in control of it.
Yeah.
This is.
That's what I was asking.
It's a weird.
Because, you know, some of those kids, when we were young, you get into it, like they dressed up like in the Kung Fu outfits and would walk around out in
Oh,
town.
ninja, man.
yeah,
I don't know
what
if you
I'm
had a
talking
pair of
about? The
ninja
whole-
tabbies, but I did.
And the whole ninja outfit, but you kept it hidden, right? And then all your weapons were in a different drawer.
Nunchucks.
I can't be the only one that did
You gotta
that.
hide them from your parents.
I am, right? All right.
You went in that weapon store to buy
Bro.
the ninja stars.
ninja
Of
stars.
course,
That's what I'm
I'm
talking about.
21 years old.
With a magazine
you
at the
can't
back
see
of
over
it,
the
you could order
counter?
all the ninja stars and all the
I
weapons.
did all that.
I had all that.
So that helped with acting then? With
Yes,
stunts and
later
gotcha.
on in life, you know, a good friend of mine, this is in, I want to say 1998, 99, something like that, about 25 years ago. He came back from Arizona where he was, well, first of all, let me rewind. 1993, at my place, and my buddy Chris, who I was just talking about, Chris Lisandro, shout out to Chris. He's at his apartment and we're both watching the UFC. And he calls me up after Hoist beat everybody and goes, "Do you think this is bullshit? Like what is this? Like, is this like back in the day it was called WWF or fake wrestling?"
Yeah.
So we didn't know if it was real or not. And then years later, about 5 years later, he goes to Arizona to MIT, the Motorcycle Institute, to work on bikes. He comes back and he's like, he comes visit me in North Hollywood and says, I was doing NHB fighting. Dan Severin had some shows or something down there that he was
The
doing
whole bar,
amateur stuff. Yeah.
that's right.
And he's like, there's a jiu-jitsu spot. I was living in North Hollywood right behind Circus Liquor. And he's like, there's a jiu-jitsu spot a couple streets down from your house. I'm training there. You should come train. At the time, I was still, the ship was still kind of being navigated by the ego. And I was like, nah, I don't need any of that. I got my striking's good. My takedowns are pretty good. I'm not going to go to the ground. And we were in my backyard, and I had a bag set up, Everlast bag, and I'm showing him my striking and stuff. He's like, all right, cool, whatever. So he goes and trains for a little bit, and then he comes back, and he's hanging out at my house. He's like, man, you really should start training. It's really dope. He's trying, like how best friends kind of try to pull best friends into doing what they're into.
Yeah. So it's easier to train with a partner.
Yeah, and having somebody to motivate and to share that love with, And so we go in my backyard again. He chokes me out 3 times in my backyard, and I was like, I need to know this. It was like being shown a secret.
Yeah.
Magic.
Marine.
Like if you got shown how to do magic.
It is different like that. Because sometimes when people show you something that knocks you out, you don't have anything to do with it.
Yeah, or even in striking, there's a strange thing in timing and what they call puncher's chance, right? So like if you, like let's say a guy who knows nothing and a guy who knows nothing, and you just say, okay, fight. There's a chance one's going to hit the other guy and knock him out. There's a chance the other guy's going to hit, right? If they know nothing, right? And then the more you know, right, the more you're educated, the more you slide that percentage in your favor. If this guy knows nothing and this guy's pretty good. But submission grappling is a different animal altogether, because it has to come from the point of unlearning natural, instincts, right? Where it's like if you're on the floor, if you see an infant on the floor, how they get up, they turn to their belly, they get up on all fours, and they stand up, right? That's usually how an infant does it. If you do that in submission grappling when somebody's trying to find your neck, you're in trouble, or your back, you know? So you have to relearn natural things to kind of unlearn and then relearn how to do them properly so you don't put yourself in bad situations.
We find out in our communities, the guys who come in that say that they're the best at something, like I'm nationally ranked in this, I'm doing this, that, and the other. I was like, well, that's great, but we teach it this way.
Right.
And it's hard to get them to break those
The
habits.
people that like...
Some of them can't do
it. Yeah.
And they're even great at what they do. But then there's that, it'll stall them for whatever else we're trying to accomplish.
Well, you know, I think that's a strange thing. I don't know if that's the egos involved, you know, where it's like, a lot of times you'll see that with firearms guys.
That's what I'm talking
where
about.
if they're super well skilled at a certain type of flat range firearm stuff, and you talk about, oh man, you should come to jiu-jitsu, you should come learn how to fight. No. Yeah. They don't want to come back to the beginner level. And I think for anybody that wants to be good at anything, you always want to maintain this kind of humble state of, I'm a learner all the way in everything.
When you're learning a new discipline, you definitely need that humility.
Yeah,
well, the best gift you could ever hold on to is try to be a beginner every day.
Amen.
I mean, the guy who taught me, he was a master hunter. And he would always say that you want to be buried with that white belt.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? We're trying to get back to that sucker.
Yeah.
And it is, every time you go in anywhere, and age is rank, I grew up with that.
Right.
So whoever walks in that friggin' door, they got something. If they've lasted long enough, they're holding on to something that they give you to help you in anything. Especially if you have something that you're interested in, it takes time to train in.
Yeah.
And that's the wonderful thing about jiu-jitsu is you could have a guy who's been doing it for 30 years and a guy who's been doing it for 3, and that guy who's been in 3 years can turn that other dude upside down and outward for whatever reason.
You know, I think it's, well, depending, right? So if the guy who's been doing it for 30 years isn't or doesn't try to maintain the mindset of like, I'm here to learn,
you have to hold on to it
better. You know, there's a lot of people that are in that world would know this, is there's a lot of guys that achieve the black belt and they're sitting against the wall and they won't like spend the time rolling with all the white belts and rolling with everybody and trying to continue. It's almost like they met the goal requirements and then their training stops.
Well, kind of when I was coming up too, they would always say, hey, the difference between when you come in as a white belt, the primary one is your breath.
Right.
It's like how you can control it. Because whoever loses it first loses the fight. You lose the argument, you lose your breath. That's the first one to go down.
Yeah.
And when you watch, the beautiful thing about when you watch somebody's really good at it, they're just as smooth. It's like you can see the whole action when they're moving, as opposed to when they're fidgety and jerking it around and all that. And that's true, man. It's like it takes time to develop that art and there's a rhythm, and everyone's rhythm's kind of different.
There's a mantra that I tell my guys that I train with and teach, which is breathe, relax, you're okay.
Yeah, right.
Breathe, relax, you're okay. And then, you know, and that's, you know, and I know you hate when we go down a road, but
I was just going to say, I want to get into Warhorse One here because I'm excited to talk about it.
Martial arts. So anyways, my buddy Chris, he choked me out like 3 times in my backyard. And that was it. That was like sent me on my journey of martial arts. And what martial arts has done for me, regardless of my job or occupation or what I do professionally, as a human being, it's changed me. Professionally, it's changed me in a way to be more relaxed, and also there's something special that happens in a room where you are simulating a fight to the death. There's an honesty that can't be hidden, you know? Like you can go to the gym and pretend you're the strongest guy there, right? But you go into a room full of killers, you know, that know how to take a man's will to survive with their bare hands.
Right.
There's no hiding.
Right.
They're going to find you. The truth will be found. And for me, that's, at least for me, that in my work, you know, as an actor, storyteller, musician, the goal is to find the truth. The goal is to try to remove all the affectation or the barriers that we create, you know, to protect the self.
So let's get into that. So you co-wrote Warhorse One.
Yeah.
Directorial debut. It
Yes,
just came
ma'am.
out July 4th.
Yes,
no,
ma'am.
I've seen the movie 8 to 10 times.
Yes.
Love it. Mikey had a little part in there. Freaking awesome.
He's amazing.
So what is, for those who don't know, what is Warhorse One about? Tell me the storyline here.
It's about the withdrawal from Afghanistan. That's sort of the backdrop.
And the anniversary's coming up.
Yes, sir. And when I wrote it, this was 2 years prior to that happening. And if you were paying attention to anything going on, you were like, well, where's this going? You know, what is going to happen? I think it's interesting that the night the Warhorse, the only piece moved on the chess set, it just brought my attention to it.
What?
Interesting.
Write that down. How long did it take you to notice that?
Yeah. Did you do that, Marcus?
Just keep going, man. I've been coming at you all
Conspiracy.
since you showed up yesterday, bro. You don't have any. See, they're laughing.
Did he catch him? Did
No,
he
he
catch
hasn't caught
him?
anything
Not
yet.
one?
I keep throwing them at him.
Oh, wait.
Because I was just looking at it. I saw
Now
it pulled my
can
attention.
see just
Wow.
a little bit.
Yeah,
It's all
Little
right. Keep
Easter
going.
eggs
Keep
hidden
going. We
everywhere.
gotta, yep.
So before that, I started writing it because I was like, where's this going to go? And I thought that'd be an interesting backdrop to what was going to happen. And so the story's about one of the last DevGru teams that's tasked on they're on a operation called Robin Hood. And they get tasked to go divert from that mission to go rescue a family of missionaries that was helping the Terps get out of a village. And they stayed too long, and the team is tasked with going to help them evacuate from Afghanistan. And during the operation, they're attacked and their helicopter's hit, and one of the members of the team is thrown from the helicopter, and the rest of the team is killed on that operation. And it's his mission to find this family and get them to safety. And when he finds them, the only survivor of the family from an ambush is a 5-year-old little girl.
Which I gotta make shout out to Athena Durner, this 5-year-old girl, outstanding actress,
Yeah.
Oh,
unbelievable,
she's amazing.
She's awesome.
unbelievable.
Yeah. I mean, for a 5-year-old to have that kind of disposition, you know, like a lot of times child actors, you know, it's kind of a strange thing, but she was really natural. And part of the reason why that, you know, I kind of pushed the story in that direction was because of her.
Right.
And because, you know, you meet somebody that's special, you know, you almost go, oh, wow, we should make a movie about you. Marcus, holy smokes, you know, Lone Survivor's a good example, right? You meet Marcus, you know about his story and his background, you go, man, that would be a compelling movie. This little girl is like magic, you know? And I thought, how, you know, that's perfect. Let's make a movie about that.
It's pretty good that she has that kind of emotion in her. I'm amazed by that too.
Oh,
Because normally to see that kind of reaction, you have to actually put them in it, and she can pull that out.
man.
And I thought that
well,
was
what's
pretty-
incredible is that when
powerful.
I'm watching it, she's able to like make me cry in scenes to pull that out of me, and
Yeah.
that's like, this isn't just a
sensitive.
military movie.
You're sensitive.
Oh, what did he just say? But it's like it touched on every emotion.
Yes.
I was laughing at certain parts, you know, crying, anxious, excited at the end. I'm screaming with, I don't want to give it away, but little Mikey's scene here.
Yeah.
But I do gotta know
Little Mikey.
how
Big Mike.
how
That's a big scene for me.
well, how Mikey got involved too in the film, you know, because he helped do tactical advising on this, right, Mike? So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so go ahead, Mike. Tell us.
I had worked with Johnny on a film several years ago, and we became friends after that. And Johnny was a big supporter of the military. He was participated in the Murph Challenge every year. And he just hit me up and said, hey, Mikey, I got a new movie coming out. I'd really like to bring you out. And so I was originally, I thought he just wanted to bring me out as an advisor. And he wanted, he wrote me a part in a movie. And, you know, I mean, I've been in a handful of movies and TV shows. But just going from Navy SEAL, playing a Navy SEAL, but then, you know, once you're in front of the camera and you got to deliver the lines, you know, it's a different animal.
Which is different for you because this was your first time having speaking lines, no?
Yeah, that got kept in the movie.
Talk about
Yeah, it
that.
got kept in the movie. Yeah.
Talk about that, because you got our guys who are still in. You got our guys that get out and go in every different direction. And then before we showed up, the Hollywood business was kind of closed off, not just to us, but to everybody. There's like one dude in there who ran the show.
Yeah.
And that's the way it worked. I mean, you think we have a tight-knit group. Hollywood, they got them too, man.
Oh, yeah.
The fact that you and the others have cut in there the way you have, and this is how it starts. I mean, you just slowly but surely where you got to earn your respect. I don't care where you go and in what environment that you go into. You still have to. If there's more than one person in there and it's working, you got to earn your respect.
And hiring military to play military roles rather than
how
actors
beneficial
playing.
is that to have for a movie as opposed to when you guys are just kind of looking it up and fetching it, trying to figure out how to do it?
Well, you know what's interesting? For most actors, I think the concept is they want to try to make it real. You know, right? Like I was saying before, it's the search for the truth. So I think most people in Hollywood, especially now, it's like in the 80s, I mean, we watch movies like Rambo and stuff like that.
Which is all real. Everything happened in those movies.
And all the hip firing and stuff like that. And it's changed.
That?
And I think the education of the audience
right
has
there,
changed.
you just like tactics. So now we look for that as service members. So now having these military members play
why it changed?
The tactics are so much better.
Exactly what you said. It's because we actually tried to do that stuff that they showed
from
us
the hip.
overseas, and it didn't work. You know, some of it didn't work for us. Guys would get busted up like, no, it worked on TV. Remember? And then and lo and behold, it evolved. And now you got what we see.
And having Mikey on set was awesome because we had other dudes playing SEALs, and he was, sort of tasked with being the guy to make everybody look legit, and he killed it. And one of the things that, for him and I working together was I have faith in people that can push through struggle. Acting and getting in front of a camera is a difficult thing. And we talked about this earlier or last night, I forget when we talked about it, but you could take one of the hardest people in the world, point a camera at their face and tell them to pretend they're doing something else.
What is that phenomenon called?
I don't know what it is, man.
We talked about it. Same thing happens on a Jumbotron at the games. As soon as they see their face up there, they don't know what to do with their hands.
It's a Ricky Bobby situation.
You know what I mean? Completely.
We
got a Ricky Bobby completely.
Yeah. So, but one of the things that I think transitioning for Mike from being an operator to being an actor is, and one advice that I give to people, that want to be actors is don't change any, do your preparations and everything prior. Know what you're supposed to say, know what your character's doing, all this kind of stuff, but then don't change when the camera turns on. Just do what you're doing.
Oh, practice like I understand completely.
Do you understand?
Yep, absolutely.
So, because people can look at things and see things that are unnatural, they'll pick it up and go, that's not natural. And that's the goal, is to try to make it seem natural.
Like you can't believe. And most of the time, humans won't say anything. Even in our, the best part about being in the crew and the way we fight with each other, and I don't even say fight like we argue, is that's the stuff that we see.
Yeah.
Like you pick it up and guys will make fun of it.
Yeah.
That's actually a conversation.
Yeah.
But then most people, man, they'll let that slide. And but they do.
Sam made sure she didn't let me slide.
But
She's
they
a
do
great
notice it.
acting coach.
Yeah, they do notice it for sure.
And the thing is, Mike, the easy button is he's playing a SEAL operator, in a way. You know what I mean? Like, even though there's that weird thing, the camera's pointed at you, and maybe this isn't your wheelhouse, your expertise. Just be an operator.
Right.
You're going to go.
Technically, you should get an Academy Award for that because you did it. That's how you're supposed to do it.
But Johnny Shirley didn't make it easy on us. He let me know there's going to be no green screens. We're going to be doing this at 10,000 feet elevation.
Yeah, where'd y'all do that at? Talk about it.
Rocky Mountains.
Life is unpredictable, but your family's future doesn't have to be. Imagine the peace of mind in knowing that they're covered if anything were to ever happen. Policy Genius simplifies the process so you can focus on what truly matters, your loved ones. No more relying solely on work insurance that might not even cut it, because Policy Genius gives you options that stay with you no matter where life takes you. I'll share my journey. Ticking off life insurance for my to-do list was a breeze. From Policy Genius, my parents and I explored quotes from the top insurers tailored to my needs. It took no time, and now my future's family is set. With Policy Genius, you can find life insurance policies that start at just $25 a month for $1 million of coverage. Some options also offer coverage in as little as a week, and they avoid all the unnecessary medical exams. They've even got thousands of 5-star reviews on Google and Trustpilot that say it all. Your loved ones deserve a financial safety net, and Policy Genius is a smarter way to get it. So head over to policygenius.com or click the link in the description to get your free life insurance quotes and see how much you could save. That's policygenius.com.
So how do you convince people to go do some gnarly shit? Like,
Great question.
so as
How
a
did you-
filmmaker,
People
right?
make millions
I
of
mean,
dollars,
yeah,
millions
right.
of dollars trying to figure that out.
So the easy part, right, would be, okay, your trailer's over there. There's your chair with your name on it. Here's a lemonade. PAs
10,000 feet,
around.
we're going to helo in, right?
Yeah, right.
I was like, all right,
Incentive.
Mike, here's the deal. You're playing a SEAL chief of a SEAL team that's coming. I don't want to no spoilers of the movie.
And this is how you sold Mikey.
Yeah, this is how I sold Mikey on the movie. The thing is, we're going to go up to about 10,000 feet, 11,000 feet to shoot this. There's no trailers. We got to walk up there and carry all of our gear up there. And it's just going to be us, and we're going to be living in some tents, and it's 3 or 4 days, something like that. And I remember he's like, are there going to be chairs there? I think he texted me that, or he said, and I go, and I'm sitting there in my own house, right, thinking, God, how do I tell him there's not going to be chairs? Like, do I text him that? Like, what am I going to say? And I go, well, there's going to be rocks. So you can just sit on a rock.
Technically, yes.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
you know,
right,
today,
yeah.
with Mike being a Navy SEAL, I tell him, you're going to be a great mother someday because he is so prepared anytime we go anywhere with his
Everything.
backpack.
We have
he
everything.
has everything.
We have everything.
Everything. So he has to go through my gear. He's pulling out my makeup, my hairspray. Seriously.
It's in here. I know it. We got to go. Yeah, we have those guys.
He had these chairs. Tell him what kind of chairs they were.
Yeah, there were these pop-up chairs.
Pop-up chairs.
Well, even more, once Johnny relayed that to me, then I had to relay to Sam, hey, pack up the truck. We're going to make a movie. So I'm trying to relay everything to her. And so, I mean, the truck's just packed in the back.
Packed.
If we get to, because I wasn't sure how remote the location was, or how easy it was going to be to get up there. But then we come and met up with everybody, and Johnny basically explains the route to get there and how the setup's
Points
going
at
to
this
be in the
mountain.
camp and everything.
Yeah, I'm like,
I come over
see
to
that
that-
up there? That's where we're going. It's
So I come over to
I'm-
Sam and I'm like, let me look at your backpacks. I had hairspray, makeup.
Mirror.
So I had to take all the stuff out of there.
Yeah.
I'm like, we got to go down to
for a lady not to
essentials
be
here.
properly.
Yeah, but it was, they kicked ass. It was awesome.
So what was the hardest part filming about in that terrain at 10,000 feet? I mean, obviously getting the gear up, but
I mean, for me, a lot of the difficulty was because I was acting as an advisor too, and it was my first big role as an actual actor. With several lines. Several lines for me, but basically leading the operation, running through all the rehearsals, being at elevation, and then having to deliver those lines. Well, I was actually, looking at my peripheral online, shooting blanks, making sure everybody was in the right position, being vulnerable, showing emotion, and making sure everything was going right. So it was like the teams. It was a put out evolution. It was multitasking.
Yeah.
what do you think, Johnny? Hardest
Well,
part about being in that elevation doing this filming for you?
Well, I'll tell you what,
10,000 feet.
I'm used to that stuff.
Yeah.
Does
Most
it make for a better movie?
So the hardest part was probably dealing with me up there then, because I was not used to it.
I mean, this
Like
was
when you throw them into the environmentals, like when they're up there in
Right.
it pulls out a different kind of person. Like you can tell if somebody who's in that behind the green screen getting interrogated as opposed to somebody sitting on top of that mountain who's been out there for a few days.
Right.
And the questions hit a little different.
Yeah,
And you got
yeah.
sorry.
Is that right? Does that sound right?
But you got to remember too, it's not just the people you see on screen. Like everybody's
Everybody.
up
It's
there.
everybody.
You know,
That's what I'm talking about.
it's the people behind the camera. It's the people behind the mics.
Microphones,
It's lighting, first aid.
Makeup,
It's everybody. So. Yeah, like Johnny would come to me and be like, all right, Mikey, like this is the scene. He briefed the overview and like we need to line the guys up. Just even doing rehearsals at that elevation in that harsh terrain. Just doing those rehearsals, you're getting wore out. I mean, you might spend half the day just rehearsing the scene, and then all the guys are tired, and I mean, some of the guys have different skills. Some people, may have, skills from being in the military. Other people are actors. They don't have those skills. So you're training everybody kind of, on the fly, and then getting them all to come together. And then once you go live, you got to bring that same intensity. So guys are already wore out, but you bring the same intensity. But that's what Johnny and me would work off each other, because someone has to lead it. It's just like before you go on an operation, like we always joke, it's like, it's really before you go on operation. It's when the mission gets canked for 3 days in a row.
As opposed to when you started practicing and writing it out.
I want to say late 2019 is when I started writing, early 2020, and then mid-late 2020 is when we started shooting it.
Because where'd you come up with the idea? That's good. It's because it's.
I mean, it's a little bit of.
There's a lot of things.
This is a two-parter. Number one, we talked about this at 40, right? You almost begin a second life, and
You absolutely do.
Okay, so there's a great saying that I love where, and I don't know where it comes from, and I'm probably going to butcher it, but it's a man has two lives: the one he lives, and then the one he lives when he realizes he only has one. Right?
That's right.
So around 40, looking back at my life, I thought, man, I've been, as an actor, and I'll give you a little something here. So actors, think about that life for a second, where you are, for the most part, waiting for other people to give you an opportunity to do what you want to do. So
talk about that. What is that like?
You're waiting for a writer to write a script. That's a great
So do you go looking
script.
for them, or is it just kind of?
Well, yeah,
how does
of
that
course.
even work?
You have, in Hollywood, you have agents and managers that are like. So you have this core group of people, right? And most of the time it's studios, right? Sometimes it's independent, but they're making a movie, so it's comprised of writers, directors, producers, executives, all this kind of
So
stuff.
there's a stable full of everything you need.
They're putting that together, and actors are like sort of on the periphery, and the majority of those actors aren't like the top actors.
Explain that.
Okay, so so when you're first starting, I mean, there are people right now that are like just praying to get a SAG card. There are people that are praying to get,
which is y'all's membership club.
Yeah. So that, like, they're praying for like there's extras that show up. Like we were.
It's like having a badge in the military. Your military ID. It's like that SAG card.
There's a whole thing, right?
Right?
So
Close enough? Is that close enough? Is that logical to say that?
You have this. It's a strange tier system, most of the time, even after you're in the club and you're going on audition and people know your name and all this kind of stuff, a lot of these actors don't realize it, right? But let's say Mikey gets a call to play Marcus Luttrell in a movie, and Mike's like, yeah, I can't wait, I got this audition, it's for Marcus Luttrell, starring role. He reads the lines, he memorizes everything, gets it all prepared, he's like emotionally invested, he trims his beard perfectly, all this kind of stuff, right? He drives through 2 hours of traffic to go sit in a room and wait for his opportunity to go read for a part, and Mikey doesn't even know, right? He reads the part, he does a great job, they put it on camera, they're like, man, great job, thanks for coming in, Mike. He doesn't even know that 5 other actors have been offered the part. Mm-hmm. They already have offers out to actors out there who have bigger names than Mikey. So you go through this crazy emotional roller coaster of like caring about wanting to do these things, when really this entire industry is like, yeah, if that person doesn't accept it, we're going to offer it to this person. If they don't accept it, we'll offer it to this person. And
some of the roles are written specifically for certain people.
Certain actors, yeah. So like, I don't know if LS was, if Mark was attached to that prior, like when they were putting that together, if it was like, yeah, he's the guy we're going to use, or if it was a different guy and then Mark got the role or whatever.
Several people that auditioned for you.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that was.
So when it came time to pick me, does he only say I didn't have?
Well, there you go. That's
It chose
Hollywood.
well.
The
How
guy
about
who's-
that? When they came in, it's like, dude, it was like an arranged marriage.
I love
You're
some
just kind of sitting there
Marky Mark.
waiting to see who they bring in the room
Love
for
some
you.
Marky Mark.
Who doesn't, right? I mean, I got so blessed with that.
Well, the thing that and there's a competitive thing, kind of like the teams, where it's like everyone's kind of competitive, Actors are the same way,
Yeah.
The thing that, as for me, as like being somebody in the movie business, is the thing that I think Mark does well. And the first time I ever saw it, and I think probably the audience, the world ever saw it, was in Boogie Nights.
Yeah.
Was honesty. Like he was able to have that, like, to show like a sincerity
those
and
guys
honesty.
like who can double up and go comedy or serious.
Yeah. I like Mark's comedy stuff.
So good.
When he's playing natural comedy,
Freaking
that's
other guys,
I'll
dude.
buy that
Oh,
ticket.
man.
Nights the other
I'll buy
day.
that ticket.
Dude.
any
You know
day.
John C. Reilly's in Boogie Nights. We just watched
shit,
it.
he
I
sure
did
is.
not know
Oh,
that.
yeah.
When we watched it,
Go back
you
and
know,
watch
talking about
those.
Chest
Yes, he sure
Rockwell?
is.
Dude.
Oh my
He's his partner.
God.
Dude.
Brock
Yeah,
Landers.
what a great
James
Brock
Brock.
Landers,
Yeah.
man.
That was just a side note,
Yeah.
but
So actors. So anyways,
Dirk
you
Diggler.
get this. There's a strange like progression in acting. Anyway, so for most of that is like you're praying for something good.
There's some actors who roll in and they'll get a part and it'll catapult them, and then there's some guys who they've done 50 movies. And they're great actors. Everyone has seen them in a movie.
Yeah.
Everyone knows their
Yeah,
parts.
so people call
no
them
one knows their
character
name.
actors.
Yeah, the character
Character
actors.
That
How
guy
about
from
that?
that thing.
Yeah.
We got guys in the teams that we've known for almost 20 plus years, didn't even know their name, just
that
their
guy from that
nicknames.
thing, that's
Yeah.
perfect. Yeah.
How about that?
Interesting.
And I'm talking about a relationship of love. And that's the same way when it comes to the actors. Y'all play so many different characters that we fall in love with.
Yeah.
And that we model ourselves after, that when they run into y'all, and I've heard this happens to Sly,
Okay.
that people will call him by the character name.
Oh, dude.
And those good, the actors that have done a lot, they'll roll over and be like, hey,
Right.
they'll hit him with it.
Right.
Hit him with the juice,
Well,
man.
yeah, and
Right?
it's a strange thing. Like there's roles like that. So like Harrison Ford for years, right? I loved he wore a T-shirt one time that said like "I am not Han Solo" or something like that.
No, he's Indiana Jones.
Exactly, right? Man, that was where I knew him from. But yeah, so it's an interesting. So around 40, around that period, right? My second life, I was like, I'm tired of waiting around for other people to do this, and I always wanted to be a filmmaker. So I made that decision. I woke up and I was like, I'm doing my own thing. I want to from the ground.
Was that what it's
up.
like? Was it overnight? Like, hey,
Oh,
you
yeah,
just had
man.
enough?
We're just tired of waiting
Tired
around,
of
like
waiting
you
around.
said,
You know,
right?
the thing is
Had to be a moment, yeah.
You have those moments in life where you like this. I'm going to make this decision, and you commit to it. I love, the Japanese calligraphy.
I know it.
One of the aspects of Japanese calligraphy is the finality of the decision. When they make that stroke, that's the stroke, and they commit to it, and that's it. Oftentimes, Western civilization, you erase it, you redo it. That's it, man. That's the calligraphy. They make those strokes, and that's it.
Those gifts.
Yep.
Beautiful.
So that was that decision for me. I was like, I'm going to make my own movie. And then it was part of that decision of like, all right, well, what am I going to do? What's the story going to be about? And then eventually, I had a profound moment in my life with my daughter. When your child is born, they're this little potato. And instinctually, you're like, I love this thing. It's a baby, and it's shaped and molded in a way that makes it appealing to us, that we care about. Like you look at a baby deer and it's super cute and shit. So you don't destroy it. So you want to nurture it. There's a thing.
That's a thing, man.
So, but around 2.5 years old, I had this moment, dude, where we were sitting in the kitchen and we made a conscious connection. Like it was like, and you just can't explain that to somebody. It's eternal. Oh man, I get emotional.
So
talking
did she
about that.
influence the movie, or
Oh yeah.
saying?
So
Warhorse One.
my thought was, how do I share that with the world? That story right there is perfect.
We talked about that.
You said that
the
earlier.
Father's a qual.
You said something about perfect.
Yeah, it
right?
means complete.
Means complete. And
The words changed where it started from Latin to Hebrew, and the true meaning behind it is completion.
And this to me was a moment of perfection. And I was like, how do I make a movie about that? Mm-hmm. And so
that's how you can tell you have one of those.
Right,
you can tell a guy who's trying to be a dad,
yeah,
trying to be a father, and act it out and how they would do it, as opposed to one who's had to do it.
It's a strange thing.
There are phenomena that happen to somebody that will trigger something in you.
Yeah. And that, you know, the story of Warhorse One is kind of a metaphor for becoming a father, where the man you are before that and the life you live and the things that are important to you, and then after that moment where you have that profound like connection where your child is all that matters.
Yeah.
And everything you do is to support that.
Yeah, purpose falls in there.
There you go.
That's a transition. As soon as that sets, and we can't pull them out of it.
That's all that matters. Yeah. And if you watch the film, that's sort of the progression of the Mirko character, you know, is his mission, you know, and who he is and what happens after that connection.
So there's so many things. There are the little things that we talked about there that got to me when I saw you doing, like the one with the water canteen, and you tried to offer water, and she was like, "Nah." It's out of the dojo. I was giggling about that. But it's changed for me over the years. So when I watch a movie, there's three characters. There's the character, there's the scenery, and there's the score. I mean, you can have characters not even saying anything. The background and what's playing, it'll catch you.
You do a great job with this movie in that. I'm serious with all three.
That's the one thing that I kind of kept picking up on, and I guess it was where I was watching it too. The missus hates me watching war movies before we go to bed, because then all nights are, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, yeah. Drago. You know Drago? Do you know Drago?
Everyone knows.
Okay, so Drago.
Kind of like Primo. Everyone knows who that is.
Yeah, everyone knows Primo.
Tonto. Everyone knows who that is.
Oh, we got to talk about Johnny too. I love my boy. He's my little brother. So, but Drago, one of the things, we had a screening in Austin, and afterwards, man, Drago's sitting there. He's like, "Man, that's what it feels like." Yeah, he was so pumped by the movie and what it felt like. He was like, "That's exactly what it feels like."
And he's transitioned.
There were a lot of guys like
Drago's
that
in a Jedi phase, right?
Yeah,
so for you to pull him back into that,
oh man,
that's what I'm talking about.
It was awesome to feel that from him.
Yeah, well, he's pretty intense. That guy for
well, you know, the thing is you make a film that has former SEALs, right? That's about the main character is a SEAL, and about operation in Afghanistan. Man, when you share that with those people, you're like, man, if it doesn't pass that test, it's a tough thing. When
you put his face on TV, and like we're watching that guy standing next to him that y'all didn't show his picture, that was me.
Yeah. And
then Drago would have been the other dude. And then, the rest of us, we're all out. We've been online with him before.
Right.
Yeah. Going through that same evolution.
So talking about actors and character actors, because you obviously played a Navy SEAL, and you're going to get into acting more now, no? After Warhorse One. Right, you did Terminal List.
Is that what you want to do?
Yeah, I think it's funny that some people don't realize. I mean, everybody knows it's a tough industry to get into, but just how tough of an industry it is to get into, because it's like people will watch a movie and you might only be in the movie for 30 seconds, but they don't realize you might have worked, months just to get that 30 seconds. And I mean, until you actually do work on a set, if they showed, a movie, everything they filmed, it'd be 12 hours long. So you don't know until that final cut comes out. You don't even know if your part made it. I just know
when he was working on Terminal List, he was there for like 17, 18 hours a day. Then it comes out, and I'm like, where are all your scenes? What were you doing out there?
Yeah, so is it like hurry up and wait kind of deal?
It's totally hurry up and wait. And I mean, like, even on Terminal List, I remember once the camera's right in front of my face, and I'm leading all the guys out, and it's like, okay, this is great. We film it over, and that's another thing. You don't realize how many times they film a scene, because they'll film it from every angle. And
okay, so
so then when it comes out, they use the drone footage that's overhead for the actual scene. So you're 3 feet in front of the camera, but when it comes out, they change the angle up. So until you see that final cut, you don't even know how your scene's going to be portrayed, or if they cut your scene. So I mean, you definitely have to have some humility, and definitely don't tell anyone about your parts until you see the final cut, so you know everything.
But back to my question. So are you going to keep auditioning for Navy SEAL roles? Or are you going to go after roles that aren't in that arena? military roles.
And can you do that? Is there a rule saying you can't do it?
Well, I can do that. I just have to convince the casting director and the director that I can do that. But yeah, that's my goal.
So that's how actors get
Yes.
stuck in positions. Is the casting director's like, hey, I know you want to do this, but this is your job. This is what people know you for.
Well, I think it's so. I
Imagine
can
you
tell
get
you from
typecasted,
experience.
You know what I'm talking about?
Is Danny DeVito. People weren't like, we want you to play Indiana Jones.
That's what I'm talking about.
Do you know what I mean? So
I know exactly. That's
So
exactly
I think
what I'm talking about.
there's a element of like what you look like, your personality, and the kind of character that you have in general.
It's got to be believable, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've met some people that play good people that are actually shitbags, and they're just good at playing good people. You know, so and the opposite way around. Some of the nicest people I've ever met play the biggest scumbags in the world.
It's like Joe Pesci can play the gnarliest freaking bad guy.
Yeah.
Michael Keaton can play the gnarliest freaking bad guy, but they can also play funny. Like they can pick you apart.
Yeah,
You
it's
know what I mean?
interesting, and I
then
think
if you see some of those comedians like Jim Carrey, if he was to play would you put him in Hannibal's role?
Or Jason Bourne.
Or,
He
yeah,
ain't doing
something- yeah,
that.
thank you.
now.
Thank you.
yeah,
Even better.
yeah. I think that. So I think it's a little specific. I mean, in my opinion, right, as a filmmaker and actor, I guess you could say.
Who does that well?
I don't know.
With the versatility of
Yeah.
that?
In your
The
opinion,
range.
who do you
Oh.
like coming up?
For me,
Yeah, for you coming up.
what
who
I
are the-
do,
Who are your guiding? Like who did you look
I
for?
don't know. Well, I'll tell you what. When I was a kid, and I told you this earlier, Chaplin was the only guy that I knew that was starring in a movie, writing a movie, directing a movie, scoring a movie, like doing all of it, you know. And there weren't a lot of people to have that as your guiding light, you know. So for me, he was the only one, and the only guy that kind of did it. Sort of more in the modern era was Prince in Purple Rain, but he was like did the music and then acted in it.
That's right. Yeah.
But for me, to me, it's all, like kind of all the same source, like writing, directing, acting, music, doing all the special effects, doing all the editing, coloring the movie, all that kind of like. If you look, my name's. I tried to spread it out. Because otherwise there'd be like a laundry list of things and then my name would show up, you know? So for me, it's all the same thing. It's all just a form of expression, you know? And I think for a guy like Mike, he could play anything. I have like firm belief in this dude
Yeah, that's what I'd be
to have
interested
the
to see.
second part of his life.
Your
right?
first role that's outside of a military role.
So you know when we come in the teams, man, and you're like, I'm gonna go in there on some. I'm gonna do all this, that, and the other. But like, hey, you're a new guy. You start right here.
Yeah.
And it's the same way.
And you got to be willing to put into work.
Yeah,
as
so the
well.
studios are set up like the teams kind of deal, and inside the studios, you have your operators, your actors, and then there's the people who help, right? It's set up kind of similar with that.
Support.
Yeah.
Support, thank you. And then the script is the mission. Right? But is that,
Analogy there.
can you say it like that?
Right.
Is that
Yeah.
fair? Say it like
Yeah.
that?
Get the right people in the
Right
it's like
people,
we
you
have
gotta stack your
point men,
platoon.
We have breachers, we have snipers.
You got to write up the op, or somebody. The writers have to write up the op, and then you got your
get your
operators, your
intel.
actors, right? They got to initiate it.
Yep, you got to put the right people in the right position to facilitate that script.
Yeah. And in our situation, it was very much like everything was very difficult at 10,500 feet. You know what I mean? Like
It is,
that.
yeah.
And sometimes Mikey was the guy really that I leaned on when you see people suffering. Like, Mike, motivate these people. Like get them back up. Let's go. And I'd be like, hey guys, what's up? We're doing this. You know, try to elevate the energy and that
So it
positivity.
gets hard
you
there
know?
too, man.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it does. And I mean, you got to deal with all the different personalities as well. Just like I said, expectations. Everybody kind of wants to be on the screen. So sometimes if your back is turned or, you're on the security element and you know that you might not be in the frame or in the focus, you still have to keep
you got
those
somebody
people
looking for all that
motivated.
too, right?
Yeah.
And everyone's always looking to you. If you're the leader here, you can't show that you're miserable if you're trying to motivate others.
Yeah,
Because
it's
we're
just
all,
like-
we're all
Oh,
looking
yeah.
to you.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
you're
it's just
cold
like
That's
too.
huge.
Right,
Yeah.
you're cold too, but
Yeah,
you
man.
can't show it.
And-
You know,
That's worse when that leader breaks down. You start
Right.
seeing that sucker.
the second he breaks down, I'm
He
breaking down.
That's right.
Yeah.
So-
And
For
you
whatever
have-
reason, it makes it okay. I don't know why that's a thing, man,
Right.
but it
Oh,
sure
yeah.
does. Yeah.
But you have to be flexible as well, just like in a team. routines. Just like, Mike Tyson said, everybody has a plan until they
That
get punched in the face,
man.
And I mean, you'll be filming a scene. You might even, run through the scene a few times. Then the director decides to change up, like, hey, I'm going to change your lines up a little bit. So all of a sudden, you've got 30 seconds to remember how to change your lines up, and you have to perform your mission that you're doing. And
now, with respect to Warhorse One, though, was there anything like unexpected, any delays, anything that that really got in the way? Obviously, it wasn't changing lines, right? Like, so what would you say?
Well, we did get a little snow on set one day, which obviously for continuity of a movie, if you've already filmed half a scene and you come out the next day to film, and then there's some snow on the mountain, it things you have to deal with.
I mean, that's
what
not
else?
really. So I'll tell you that story. So we're at about 10,000 feet, and tents, 7 tents set up, and Sammy and Mike are in one tent, and I'm in one tent, and some other actors in their tents. We wake up that morning to go shoot one of the sequences, and we climb up another 500 feet about. So we're 10,500 feet, something like that, and we're shooting this sequence, and midway through the day, a storm rolls in. That year, that was the biggest storm that hit that area. And I could see it coming in. And we were actually filming one of the sequences with the guy James, who was playing the sniper. And I looked out over the valley, and I saw this storm coming in, and I was like, stop doing that. Don't worry, we'll get that later. Turn those cameras around, get everybody up here right now, line everybody up, we're shooting the end of the movie. And they're like, well, we're doing that tomorrow. And I was like, we're doing it right now. Because I turned around and I saw it. It just looked like biblical.
Yeah.
God
just hooked you up with a set
design.
This
And I'll tell you what.
gnarly.
I'll tell you what. You just said something. I don't know if it's fate, destiny, or the hand of God, but it was given.
Buckle up, my friends, because as fall approaches, life's about to kick in a high gear. But luckily, I have the perfect solution for your whirlwind lifestyle. Factor takes the stress out of mealtime. With chef-crafted, dietitian-approved meals, you'll keep your health goals on track and your daily routine manageable. With over 34 weekly meal options at your fingertips, including gourmet choices featuring truffle butter and more, variety is the name of the game. Lunch breaks? Consider them solved, because their lunch-to-go meals require no microwave and are packed with satisfaction. If you're concerned about calories or craving protein powder, they've got you covered there too. Their Calorie Smart meals clock in at under 550 calories, while their Protein Plus dishes deliver a whopping 30 plus grams of protein per meal. But here's the real cherry on top. If you're looking to give somebody a birthday present or anything during this August, give them a Factor meal and it will make their day, I promise you. So go head over to factormeals.com/TNQ50 and don't forget to use the code TNQ50 to snag 50% off of this awesome, awesome meal.
So I'm taking it. Turn the cameras around, film them. You ready, Mike? We're leading everybody out. And we turned it around, shot this sequence, bro. And it was magic. It was magic. And then at the last shot, we got the coverage of this sequence. 1 drop of rain, 2 drops of rain, and this storm started to hit. We're all running down the mountain back to our tents with all the gear, guns, and all this shit.
At this point, I'm looking at Mike like, what shit did you get me into?
Yeah.
What?
And I'm
This
sitting there.
better be a good-
She's like, this better be a goddamn good movie. Shut me up.
Yeah, and the funny thing is as a filmmaker, that people are like, that they may not understand your vision. They might not even be able to see it. Like I can't tell you how many times people came up to me after the movie and were like, man, this was so good. Did you know? And I'm like, I know. I knew the whole time it was going to be good. From day one. Like, I'm not going to go, like, would you ever go into some people, they have a mentality like, we're just making movies. Whatever. Man, this is what I spend my life doing. Why would I not take that serious? Would you go on a mission that your life was at risk and go, no, whatever. Fuck no.
Right.
Sorry about that. Yeah, but no, you wouldn't. So I'm the same way with the movies. It's like all or nothing. Like, let's go.
Yeah.
So we're running down the mountain, and the storm is just smashing the mountain. We all get zipped up in our tents, and then it just hits, and it hits all night. Thunder, lightning, everything. And
you know how we said we were
You go
looking to
ahead.
our leader, right?
Yeah.
He started panicking. So now
I
I'm
wasn't.
I didn't know. No,
did.
she's lying. He never panicked.
My favorite. when
He
she
never
said
bet,
that,
man.
She's like, how are we gonna get
Love
off
that,
here?
dude.
I said, we will die before we call for help.
To be honest, when that storm was hitting the tent, and I looked over at you,
But I will say,
I see. I don't know this
top of
story.
the-
Tell me the
we're
story.
laying in a
Tell me the
tent,
story.
and the top of the tent like pulls it off. Everything is smashing us in the bottom of the
I
tent. The wind
do
was
not. So I'm
was
looking
hitting
over at
so
him,
hard.
and now his face is kind of like this. Now I'm like, oh shit. It's like when you're on a plane and there's turbulence. You always look at the flight attendant, right? Right?
I didn't know about this story. Tell
Oh,
me
yeah.
about it.
Well,
I'll tell
Here
my
we go.
story in my tent. So I'll give you my story. So my story in my tent. This motherfucking storm is hitting. Oh, sorry again. The storm is just smashing the mountain, and it's like record storm for that part of the year. It snowed. I mean, the mountains were covered. I'm asleep, and my girl is shaking me. She's like, "Babe, wake up." And I'm like, "What?" She's like, "Are we gonna be okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, we're gonna be okay." She's like, "Well, this storm is really bad. What if a tree falls on us?" I go, "Then a tree falls on us."
I thought you were worried about the storm.
Yeah, no, but the
That's how you
storm
hit.
was
Like,
ripping.
no, I get it,
Yeah.
but I'm like, are you worried about the tree or are you worried about the storm
right.
now?
And she's like, "Yeah, but what if a tree?" And I was like, "That's not our destiny." And she's like, "Yeah, but what if a tree falls on us?" I'm like, nothing we can do about it. That's what it's going to be, you know. And we hear in the middle of the night like a car crash, like, and guaranteed it's a tree that just got ripped off and smashed on the ground. And I'm like, hope that's nobody I care about. Yeah. You know?
Told you it wasn't us. yeah.
You know what I mean?
What'd I
That's
say?
not our destiny. And in the morning, I remember coming out of the tent. It was like a war, bro. It was just destroyed. And that tree, probably from here to the mirror from somebody's tent.
Yeah.
over someone's tent.
Yeah, Chris and Ben, if you hear this, you watch this. Ben, I think that was your tent. And you survived it. You lucky.
See, I didn't
SOB.
even know, because I didn't leave it. I didn't even know that happened.
My train of
So
thought
what was in your tent? What
My
was happening
train
in
of
your
thought
tent?
was, these guys are all putting their tents up in the tree line. So as a team guy, I'm thinking the wind's going to come in. You know, the tree, tree branches, trees might fall over, hit your tent. So we're going to go out in the field.
You did say that.
So
when we were going
said,
up there.
I said, we're going to be smarter than everybody else. We're going to go out into the field where there's not going to be as many obstacles to fall on us. But then at the point where the staked in the ground tent started to lift off the ground,
yeah.
I mean, I was, you start just running through your mind, like, did tornadoes come up to 10,000 feet? So then I start thinking in my mind, second guessing, like, maybe we're in the alley now for the wind, so this isn't as good.
Yeah, you were right on a ridge line right there.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it was normal.
Where were y'all at?
Rocky Mountains.
Yeah.
Check. Where?
Yeah, up there, up north. In the OPSEC.
What month was that?
This was September.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
So it's just about to start turning then.
So,
It was
yeah, this
beautiful.
was the first storm of that year, too. And
Okay.
well, here's the thing. You
It was
just said
beautiful,
something.
It was
right?
beautiful when
yeah.
we were hiking up. It was gorgeous. T-shirt.
Oh, it was
like-
perfect.
Oh.
Yeah, it was perfect. And we got hit with this. But I'll tell you what, this was a gift. Because the end of that movie just looks incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible.
I was going to say, when you're walking through there, I remember that happened to me walking through the mountains. There were times where I remember how beautiful it was.
Yeah.
Because when the seasons are changed and you can feel it,
Yeah.
I always say you can feel the air. That crisp
Yeah.
kind of
Well,
in the mountains.
Here's a question for you. So, I like to play at 10,000, 11,000 feet, hunting and climbing and hiking and camping and stuff. That's kind of like what I like to do. Go shoot and do cool stuff, high elevation stuff. Me and my buddy that do most of that together, we always say, man, it's the most beautiful place on earth, but it'd be a nightmare to fight in it. So, where you were at, if you weren't fighting, would it be a beautiful place?
It was. Because that's why I would notice that when we weren't fighting. But then imagine playing your favorite sport on the side of a mountain.
Yeah.
It's just a pain in that. It's just hard.
Oh, yeah.
You can't breathe. There's a breathing pattern. They can. Them suckers can move.
Yeah.
I'll always give them credit. Anybody I fight throws me a whipping, man. I'm like, hey,
Sure.
And
Yeah, it was those crazy when you be up in just the most remote, like dangerous terrain, and you'd see the old remnants of a fire in a cave or something. You're like, you know, like we're on ropes climbing up there with harnesses being her dead.
Wow.
You're like, someone just came up here with a pair of flip-flops on and actually made it to this position.
Crazy.
You know,
it's the calmness in your environment. If you're fighting in your own home, you wouldn't run, you'd walk.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like, because you know, I mean, you know the angles.
Yeah.
They understand the angles, right? Like
Yeah.
you go this fast to get around this. With us, though, we're power in, kind of deal. It's different.
It's different. Well, and, you know, I kind of felt that a little bit bringing people that weren't used to that. Like, there were 2 guys plus me, so there's 3 of us that's a normal weekday for us, you know? And as a leader, you're like, oh man, I hope I don't lose anybody up here. I hope nobody shits the bed and just says,
so
fuck
you keep
it,
the same team movie to movie, or is that
no?
terrain?
I mean, it's considering this being my first real movie, you know, like from the ground up. No, this I used a couple people in this process, and I'm going to change that up for the next one. And you know, really, what that is, I think, for filmmakers is, you'll find a lot of great directors. They have the same ADs. They have the same people involved, you know. And
the old ones too, right?
And you don't start with that. Sometimes it's this job, that job, this movie, and then you build a team. So I'm in the process of building a team, you know.
it's kind of like I said, you know, it's like your SEAL platoon, your troop, but you know, when you're just a shooter, you're just worried about being a shooter.
You don't even know what you don't know. You don't know, man. But it's bliss, right?
But it's like every time, you know, you're in another position. But then when you're the OIC running it, it's a whole different animal. And I think that's, you know, where Johnny is at, just like he said, starting it from the ground up when you're writing, directing, scoring. I mean, basically helping with production, stunt, like everything.
It's different when someone else wrote.
Animal.
When you're doing something personal, as if they lived it, as opposed to something you got to write up and like, hey, I know.
Oh man, it's I've always called it my baby. You know, like the movie's always been my baby, and the metaphor of Mirko bringing that child up the mountain safely. That's this movie. That's the metaphor.
So that was one of the things that got my attention. Is when we fall down the mountain, that catches people's attention. People will stop and watch somebody fall.
Oh yeah,
that happened to us. Watching somebody haul ass up a mountain is impressive, because you had that. It scored just the music caught my attention, and then I was like, because I don't like to run at all. So when I see somebody doing it, it's kind of like, you know, okay, dude's getting after it, and then you just carrying her and then falling back down and getting back up. I know how hard that is. How hard it is to run like that. And when you see somebody, that in itself is an intensity that captures people. Like there were periodic moments in the movie that, like, if I saw that anywhere else, it would capture me. Like you have an eye to do that.
Ladies and gentlemen, fasten your seatbelts because we're about to take you on a ride that'll change the car game forever. Get ready for the Navy Federal Auto Excellence experience. Imagine this. That dream car you've been eyeing, it's within reach, and the best part, no more waiting games. With Navy Federal's Car Buying Center, decisions happen in a blink, and that adrenaline rush is unmatched. It's not just a center, too. It's your one-stop shop for all things car-related. Your research, financing, buying, and safeguarding your prized possession. Also, meet the Navy Federal Flagship Credit Card, your turbo boost to your travel dreams. They have 3 times points on all of your epic adventures, and you can even score up to $100 in statements, credits, and TSA PreCheck or global entry. Oh, did I also mention they have complimentary year of free Amazon Prime? This card is your gateway to rewards, even whenever you're not exploring new horizons. This is exclusively for the heroes, our armed forces, the DoD, veterans, and their family. Navy Federal is insured by the NCUA, and credit decisions are subject to approval. If you're ready to dive into Navy Federal's Car Buying Center and Flagship Rewards, go head over to NavyFederal.org now.
Oh, definitely.
I think there's everybody can be good at something, and I don't take any credit for the stuff that I feel that I'm good at, like where, sometimes you could do something and it's, we've all worked with firearms, right? So when you, and I wouldn't say mastery, right? But when you're pretty comfortable with the manual of arms of a certain firearm, like an M4 or something like that, and you know how to run that thing, right? It's through practice and some people are just better at it than others. Making movies or telling stories or doing that creative stuff, I don't take credit for that. That's out there, and it's just I'm filtering that through me. You know what
Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I got you.
But I gotta say, your tactics were incredible. So what was your training like for that? Your tactics in this movie were.
You guys know. But for the podcast, dude, I've been shooting since I was a kid. My father was a really big influence. I was telling Marcus he used to do something called the Steel Challenge out in Lake Piru, which is competition 1911 shooting. And so that was one of my influences growing up, learning how to shoot a 1911. And I just continued that throughout my childhood, going to the shooting range and shooting rifles and pistols. And then as even right before Black Hawk, I was at the range doing sniper rifle training just because that's what I do.
No, for our audience too, who'd you play in Black Hawk Down?
Randall Shugart.
That's right.
Yeah. So that's some actors train for a couple weeks with guns to go play a person that does stuff with guns in a movie.
We can tell who they are.
Mm-hmm. I go for a couple weeks to work on a movie and then go back to my regular life training with firearms and martial arts and stuff like that. That's my everyday thing.
So it's not just preparing for one role. This is every day for you. Your training, your diet.
The stuff for the...
That's kind of going away, man. Most of these actors coming up, it's kind of like with the MMA game, man. They're well-rounded.
The immersion. I think it's an immersion thing now where more people have seen people take it serious and want to do it, and more even people like Taryn Butler is a gun guy, that trains people. More guys like that are involved because the education of the audience, they're getting smarter. So if they see a dude who's just hip firing with a magazine that never runs out of bullets, they start to go, wait a minute. They start to smell bullshit. And so one of the things in Warhorse that I take personal pride in was that when I was editing the film, there were many moments when the gun would, the primary firearm would go down while we were filming. And I would work through a malfunction just like I usually do when I'm on the range training.
Awesome.
And it actually, one of the first ones was I'm coming down the mountain and I'm doing the peel, right? Throughout the opening of the film, right? So I'm doing sort of a solo peel, right? Shoot, move and shoot, move and shoot. And I get to this one spot behind these rocks where I'm waiting for somebody and I'm like, come on, fucker. And this dude pops out and I smack him and the gun goes down. And I actually had a malfunction. And I ran right through it and got it back up and double tapped him, dead checked him, and then moved on in the shot. It's one shot. And to me, it's like that is normal. That's what you do, It wasn't a thing like most actors are like, my gun doesn't work. Right. Somebody figure this out,
That's how you can tell you love what you do. You love this, that you did.
I would,
to do,
I'll tell you what, it's a strange thing. Work. We all have a calling in life, where our paths sometimes form themselves while you're in the process of forming it, or how our lives unfold, right. Like what we're doing right now. A year from now, what happens to your life? That you don't know.
Question. What do you got?
Who's in control?
What are we doing now?
Who's in control? That's a really interesting thing. Is as much as we think we're in control, there's only a small amount that we can actually control.
That's why I think a lot of the scenes came out as real and as authentic as they could be. It was cool because Johnny would bounce something off me, and Johnny's. He's done a lot of training and he's very proficient with weapons. So it wasn't like we were starting from here to go to here. It's like we were already at a certain level and then Johnny would bounce something off me say like, okay,
Mikey,
if we're
what would I
really in a
say?
gunfight,
Yeah,
what would I really do right here? Is my movement correct here? Would this be how it is? And just like Johnny said, which is cool, it's like just go through it. Just keep going. So, if you do get a malfunction, if you do run out of ammo, you do a reload, but run through everything, but just being open to that dialogue and communication to work back and forth, which I think on a lot of movies that doesn't happen. It's either the director or the actor or the advisor. People have, a different vision for it, and they don't care what the advisor says. Like, that's not really how it would happen. And some directors are like, I don't care. Like, this is how I want it to happen. But the guys who really have those skills, the real operators or even military people in general, can look at that and be like, that's garbage. That doesn't work. Yeah. So I think that was a real cool thing, being able to work back and forth like that, and everybody being, open to each other's, concerns and considerations.
Yeah. And I want, like, so in certain situations, say, Mikey, I'd call him up if I was doing something. So they were there for a portion of maybe like a week up there on the mountain, and then I was filming other stuff when they went home, and I'd call them up and I'd be like, Mikey, I'm doing this thing. What would I say in this situation? I'm calling into my radio, or, would I sound like an idiot if I said this? Or what would a team guy think if this was the dialogue I used? And he'd consult, he'd go, let me think about it. And then he'd like, maybe say something like this, or this is the term I would use, or whatever. But there's one cool thing I'll mention in there's a sequence where I get a double feed, and I mortar the rifle to get that cleared. And while I'm shooting that, I remember I'm mortaring the rifle, and the cameraman was about to cut, and I literally, you won't see it in the movie, I go, no, don't you stop rolling. And I finish this mortar, and I clear this malfunction, and I get the gun back online, and I do it. And it's one of those things, if you've ever had that problem, like real firearms guys would know that kind of stuff. So in that search for the truth, I try to find the truth in everything, whether it be the music, or whether it be the firearms manipulation, or whether it be the dialogue, or whether it be the delivery of dialogue, or the message or the tone, Yeah. I think I try to do that with everything in life,
Like even, and they did a real good job on Lone Survivor of this too, is catching, the hissing and the whizzing of the bullets just going by, guys like us, like,
it's the movie
like that's the
movie.
First thing you think of, and you think of, all the contacts and gunfights you've been in. It's like all of those little sounds and just the tone of the voice and the projection and how you're making calls.
When you pan past, there's one guy in a gunfight and it's going real, and then in the background you see the dude just banging that. That's funny.
You hear that bolt just crashing back,
and
when you're smashing the butt stock down.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised. Like, there's a lot of stuff they don't put in there. It's like, that's kind of the gnarly, nagging. And like, no, that's the good stuff, man. That's what. Yeah. That's how you know they were actually in it.
Do you know I put something in there for you? You put that for me, right?
That's the only thing you've seen.
So listen, your gun kept on coming back to you, like it was a miracle or something. So when Mirko finds himself, surviving the river, and he looks up and his bag is sitting there floating right there in the tidal pool. That thing that, like, almost like, is that a miracle? Like, is it, like, what? Like, dude, what are the fucking chances?
Yeah, I caught all that. The Dodge truck at the end of it, that was our first truck, my brother and I's first truck.
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. I could go all day,
really?
Man. Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff in there.
Johnny missed the Fast and Furious car we got back here.
Oh, you got one back there? I see the G.I. Joes. That's fucking awesome. But yeah, so here's a question for you guys. The relationship between you and Mikey, how did that start? Like, what was the beginning of that? How did you guys meet?
Mojo.
Brother.
Yeah, Mojo. Him and my brother were pretty tight.
Well, we first met, and I was actually working as an instructor at Bud's at the time, and there was a guy who got injured in their task unit, and I just got a call up, and Marcus is like, "Hey, man,
this is the coolest. I got to pick my team, and I just gotten back, and the guy got hurt, and I was walking out of medical. I remember walking in, I poked my head around because where we were going was gnarly. It was so bad, Ramadi.
Okay.
And I looked at the guy and I was like, hey man, I'm taking the guys over. You got any advice for me? He's like, just pray.
Oh,
He's
man.
ghost white. It was a new guy. He'd been hit fragged by a grenade, dude, and it just busted his ass up, man. And I was like, all right. And I was walking around and I had 3 names on this list. And I was going down the row, each team looking for these dudes. And he was one of them. And I remember asking him, he had a shade. I'll never forget it. We were standing in the sun. I was like, hey, what are you doing? He's like, because they had called over first.
Yeah.
Give a heads up. And him, it was Dave. I went and got you, Dave, and there was one other.
Yeah, it's.
He's seasoned.
I mean, it's.
Oh, here's
it's
another. I didn't know he was
everything-
older than me. That was the great part too, man. It was like he
Mikey
played.
was older
Oh
than you?
yeah, that he had been around longer than me. Because that's. And I was asking him
You
questions.
aged
I actually
well,
told
for
him to
sure.
do something. I was like, hey, I need you to go check on this and do this for me. And then I walked. He went and did it. He didn't say anything. He just went and did it.
You were senior to him?
And
That's
then-
I think we were the same rank.
No.
Yeah,
I-
positional wise, I'd
Yeah.
been bumped up. I got combat capped, and then they stuck me in there. So, but he'd been around longer than me, which is seniority, which is a respect thing.
Oh.
And somebody's like, man, you know who that guy is? And then even Mojo was like, God, dude, freaking been around forever, man. Knows everybody.
I didn't make rank as quick.
Yeah. So I was like, really? And he's like, yeah, man, you got. He's one of the ones you got to get to know. I was like, what's that? So here we are, and we're
Wow.
still buddies.
Yeah.
And we'd be outside those tents. He had that chair. He always had a chair, just like you said. And he'd sit there and guys would be like, hey, what are you going to do when we get back if we make it? And he's like, I'm going to start a t-shirt company. I'm going to do this. And then the other guy was like, I'm going to be a doctor. And the other guy was like, I'm starting this company.
Mm-hmm.
One guy was getting married. I was like, I wanted to go to medical school. I'll never forget those nights and sitting in those chairs in between the tents. This is the world blow up around us. Everyone trying to kill us. It was just us doing that.
Story time around the fire.
Made
Yeah.
me cry. That was sweet.
I'll never forget those. Then at the
no,
end of it,
man.
you get bored. You walk in the guy's tent, like, "Hey, you got any good movies?" And then after we were there so long that they would take the movies out of one folder and put them in a new folder, so it'd be a new movie. It wasn't a new movie; it was just a new folder.
It's funny
that
how
was-
you get so accustomed,
So-
to
yeah.
living like that over there. It's like, I mean, basically you're just living in a tent,
Yeah.
on a cot. You're lucky if you have a TV in there or whatever to watch something on, and it's like you come back to America and everything's like new again. You're like, wow, a McDonald's. Like you're like, I
Everything.
literally live in my garage of my house right now, and it'd be nicer than what I
Nice.
lived in for the last.
It's
6
like we were in
months.
this orphanage growing up together. We didn't have anything. A chair.
Yeah.
Food out of a green tub. We had a mermite tub. That's what we ate out of every single day. And then bullets flying. People get shower every other day if you could do that. This kind of deal, man. And we had the best time hanging out with each other, man. And then we go out at night and people try to kill us and freaking guys get busted up. It was the craziest deployment, man.
And what for you, Mikey? You were instructor for how long before that?
I was an instructor. I think I was there probably 2.5 years. It was a 3-year billet, but I mean, once I really liked instructing. It's great training the next generation of warriors.
Yeah.
But when you did get a call, especially to go to a place like Ramadi, I mean, it was
Everyone knew what that was.
It was the biggest hot zone.
Everyone was trying to
You
get
were an
there.
instructor before you went to Ramadi.
Yeah.
Yes.
I snuck him out of there early.
Really?
Yep.
Okay. I
Yeah,
did not know that.
and we relieved Task Unit Bruiser, which was Jocko Williams'
Jocko
platoon.
and Leif and Chris Kyle
Yeah.
and all them guys.
So
Mark Lee.
I mean, we knew
Yeah.
exactly where we were going, and we knew how dangerous it was. And it's just like you get put on the spot. It's almost like when somebody calls you, like, "Do you want this role or not?
Yeah.
Come and take it." And we knew. I mean, I knew it was dangerous. I knew where I was going, but as a frogman,
That's what you
I mean,
signed up
that's what
for.
you want. That's what
Yeah.
you sign up for.
Yeah.
So when you can go do that, and you get that opportunity. I mean, I guess there are certain guys that turn those opportunities down at times for other reasons, but I wasn't turning that opportunity down.
I love
Yeah.
it.
So, and you really have to change your mindset. My operational gear was sitting
Oh,
in
dude, that
my
was-
cage
man.
collecting dust at the time because I was instructing. So I have to run and break all that gear out, drag it over to the team. I mean, I came over there that afternoon. I literally left Buds, checked out, and came
Then
over there.
what
that
we land
afternoon.
with and you walk out the door with, you realize is not compatible with what we're fixing to walk into. So then
Right.
we're shedding that stuff.
Right.
And then you finally see the streamlined version of
Really?
it.
Yeah. Once you're over there.
Man, and it's cool. When we get our battle rhythms, it takes about a month. And then at the end is the worst part because we're ready to come home. So that's usually when our guys get hit, is at the end or in the beginning, especially with us. But man, we had some fun times, man.
So after, when you came back, you went back to instructing, no? Became a civilian instructor?
Yeah, that's I
Went to Buds, right?
Yeah, I left the military after that. That's when I started Forged.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I kind of just started as a hobby. Yeah, I didn't really know it was going to blow up. But after it took off, I ended up getting out. And then I was out for a short period of time, and I get a call. And it was a friend of mine who was running Buds. Said, hey, we want to bring you back as an instructor. I'm like, I'm out of the military, right? He's like, yeah, we're bringing in
So that was
civilian
pretty unheard
instructors.
of, huh?
Yeah, it was the first time they'd ever brought in civilian
Was that fun?
instructors. Oh, yeah. Yeah. it
I'd
was
like to
great.
do that one time. Before, is there an age limit on that?
No, there isn't.
Excuse me.
I mean, most of the guys, once they get in their 40s and stuff, they're not the guys that want to go run the daily evolutions.
I don't
They're
want to
kinda
jog or
teaching
anything like
more-
that. Let's be very clear of what I'm going to be doing.
What about the guy that drives the Suburban?
Yeah, him.
With the
the mad guy with the
bullhorn?
bullhorn, talks
Yeah.
smack. I
That's
mean,
it.
those guys are brilliant.
I mean, there was
No one can talk shit like our guys can, man. It's unbelievable.
there was probably I think it started out. I think there was maybe like 8 of us civilian instructors. It was spread out through the pipeline
Yeah.
in different phases, and then I worked at first phase, right? So nobody really wanted to work in first phase because,
Why?
like in first phase, I would have to get out there and run the PTs, do the runs, the evolutions, and you have
So
to
first
really
phase is
stay-
definitely obviously the hardest phase. That's why nobody
Yeah,
wanted to run
I
it,
mean,
or
you
what?
do work the longest hours, so all you
Longest
other
hours?
phases that think you
because
work long
they're actually
hours, you
the
don't.
guys are going through the program, but there's team guys leading them through it. So
Yeah.
as in still
Every
instructors, you're
evolution
going
you
back
lead.
through the program in itself,
Wow.
and that ought to let you know what mindset does. Because I remember going into Hell Week, I thought a certain way, and the minute they put that brown shirt on me, I felt like, hey, I was something. Same way with that. All it takes is for your peers to acknowledge you that you're something, and that's how you change. And our program is great at that.
Well, that's how it is in the Marine Corps.
Same way with
you're this recruit.
Marines are
the
the
whole
absolute
time.
pinnacle of that.
You know, you're this recruit. That's how you refer to yourself until you get that EGA and graduate. Then they call you by your name.
And
You
they
know,
never
that
stop
means
calling you that.
something, You know,
Once
that
a
means
Marine,
something.
always a Marine. Once they get
Yeah,
that,
but I get that.
That's one of the coolest things we do.
So first phase. Sorry about.
No, but just working at first phase, it's very rewarding. But we had this saying in the teams: the only easy day was yesterday. So for me, and just my experience, it was cool in the fact that I got to build, my business Forged, and still, be a SEAL as far as like being in the community. I was civilian. I worked in first phase, side by side
Dude, that's
with all the
awesome.
guys.
You
I
molded
got
the
to,
next generation of SEALs.
Yeah,
you
it's
know?
awesome.
I
Well,
got
that's
to
the thing,
forge
yeah.
the next generation of SEALs.
Forged. the
I
next-
see what you did
Ah.
there.
I'll tell you what,
Let's be
one of the
brand
things in my experience knowing Mikey, one of the best things that I've witnessed is how many SEALs that I've met that look up to this dude.
Yeah,
That's-
likewise.
It's impressive.
Yeah, so we got some guys in the program, like you say their names, it's synonymous. Very rarely will you find everybody who likes one dude.
Yeah,
That usually doesn't happen with us just because team guys are the way we are.
yeah.
But there are a few. When you say their name, guys are like, solid dude.
Well, you know what's interesting?
I'm not one of them.
Yeah,
Just for the record.
I've heard about that. Yeah, I've heard
I'm
about
not one of those
that.
guys.
I've heard about that. Well, I was talking to Rob O'Neill, and it was funny. I was talking about how I find it strange, but it's a natural thing that team guys, like, you'll find that this guy hates this guy. He's not going to come to this party because he's at this party, and this guy hates this guy, and da-da-da. But Mikey's one of those dudes that's like, the guy that hates this guy, both those guys like Mikey.
Oh, yeah.
It's
He's one
pretty
of them.
impressive.
Steve Ward,
It is
one of
like a
them. There's
sorority, you
Charlie
guys.
Melton. You say those
It
names,
seems
everybody's like,
like
oh,
a
I got, yeah,
sorority.
good
Yeah.
dudes.
A total sorority.
And it's because they don't try.
You know,
And then the rest of the
yeah.
guys are like alphas. I mean, you can't put two alphas. Some of them are just not going to, they're night and day. They're not going to like each other.
I mean that is
just
one
the way
of the
it is.
issues with our community. You get so many alphas
Just
around.
the way it is. It's nothing personal. They know that too.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the way it is.
I
You
think
can see it just in the room. They don't even have to be talking to each other. It's just the way they act.
Well, there's going to naturally be conflict,
Yeah.
but there are certain personalities that you can, like, so if it's fire and water, like there's like a rock that can deal with both of them, you know what I mean?
Both.
He's got this special quality about him that's really impressive. And to hear these, you know, some of the events that we had screening Warhorse, it was really awesome to sit and be talking to somebody would come up and go, oh man, Johnny, this was great, and da-da-da. Now that's a Texas boy right there.
That?
You see that?
Did
that's
you
a
see
Texas
that,
boy right there.
Make sure he sees
Yes,
that.
ma'am.
What's up, guys? So today we're diving into a topic that demands our attention. So let's get right to it. Our power grid is facing unprecedented threats. In January this year, a North Carolina power station was hit by gunfire for the third time. Experts are starting to raise the alarms about a new level of danger. And here's the real shocker. 9 key substations are also on the line. And if they're attacked, we could be without power for up to 18 months. Picture it. I mean, weeks, even months in the dark, chaos would reign. But there is a lifeline. The Patriot Power Generator. It's a portable solar power, but not just for camping. It keeps your phones, devices, and even your fridge running. Patriots, take action. You can go get 10% off at 4patriots.com with the code TNQ. Plus, enjoy a year-long guarantee with free shipping over $97 and support for our veterans. Go equip yourself with a portable solar power. Go to 4patriots.com with code TNQ for 10% off.
I'm a Cali boy, and he's from Pennsylvania, so I don't know what they're like up there. But they'd be talking about, man, the movie was this and da-da-da. And then all of a sudden the conversation goes right into, yeah, man, Mikey helped me through Buds, bro. It was like, you know, there were some tough times in Buds, but Mikey really helped me through it. You know, it's an awesome thing, especially because how much suffering goes into becoming a SEAL.
Yeah, so our guys don't open up about that a lot. They usually close that. Once they graduate and they get their try, no team guys ever fail to run.
Yeah. Buds wasn't hard.
Yeah.
Oh, hell
Yeah.
I made it right there. You were standing right beside me crying. What are you talking
then
about?
the guy, he's like, oh, really? Because I was talking to Marcus. He said Buds was hard. He's like, oh, he's a pussy, you know. And I mean, they're like that. They do that, and it's every now and again. Usually happens when one of us dies. Is when you'll get something out of them. Then maybe, right?
Well,
like,
I'll tell you what, y'all a bunch of softies, I'll be honest with you. Because I think, at least the guys that I've met, you know, there's some knuckle draggers out there that are like, you know, like, I don't know, you know, maybe they're just stone cold, but dude, this is one of the nicest dudes I've ever met. You're one of the nicest dudes I've met. Rob's one of the nicest dudes I've ever met.
Hey, we got monsters. We have them.
Yeah,
You know,
I'm sure.
and that's a great point because I wanted to talk about the shirt you're wearing for vets, that there's now more treatments coming out to help, you know, you guys, you operators, to be able to tap into those emotions that there weren't before and talk about it, you know, just like Veterans Exploring Solutions.
I mean, because you got the team thing and then you got the war thing, but then our childhood, some of our guys, just their childhoods were just unbelievable.
Yeah.
And I think one of the big problems too is we go from having such a tight-knit community, you know, the brotherhood, and once you leave that, especially guys who move away somewhere where there isn't that network of guys around anymore, and you don't realize what you have until it's gone.
It's the first time my heart ever got broke.
Yeah.
I was like, I lost, you know,
and you
that's
think
a weird
it's
way to
easy
say
to
it, man.
transition and find a job once
everyone
you're
knows
out
what that
too,
means.
you know,
Sure.
that translates,
Right,
and it's not.
And we were kind of talking about this last night, and I think people get lost, and a lot of veterans and especially operators, you get lost once you don't have that community, and you got to find, you know, it's that passion again, because you spend your whole adult life that you know, like just working on them skills, being an operator, and that community's just around you, and I'm not saying you take it for granted, but it's just always there. And then once you leave, it's gone, and you have to find something to fill that void. You know, you got to find something to have that passion, and
that's passion.
And I mean, that's why I like, you know, working, you know, in the film industry with guys like Johnny, you know, where we're creating stories, we're you know, putting out good content, you know, putting out stuff that some kid is going to watch and see that and go like, wow, that's really badass, man. I want to be like those guys someday.
That's the best way to say that too. When you're making it, is go, okay, if I was back in my house and I was 11 years old watching this, well,
that's all.
You know what I mean?
That's all I'm doing.
Some of that stuff hits so hard. You're like, I got to go do that. I was teaching my kid the other day. There's some teachers out there that when they go do their thing, the best one I can describe is Bob Ross. Like when that Joker paints, you can do whatever he does.
Sure.
Like I can do that just by watching him.
He makes it look so
I'll go
easy.
put the shirt on. I'll go, and I can do that. I feel like that just by watching him paint for 5 minutes. There are guys in every profession when they do something, you're like, oh.
You know what's funny is
how amazing is that gift?
How many people basically said to me, "You can't do that."
That's the magic word.
Do you know how many people have said, "Well, you can't star in a movie and write a movie and direct a movie and score a movie and edit a movie and color a movie and do all that kind of stuff. You're not allowed to do that. You can't do that." Man, it's unreal that. But for me, right on my side of the thing, just probably like you guys, like you always had that focus and that vision of like, I'm going to be a Navy SEAL. On my side of the fence, it's the same thing. It's like, and for them it may seem difficult, but for me it's like, that's easy.
Yeah.
You know,
That's
and if you can,
yeah,
and if you could be,
good.
if you could be that beacon, right? For somebody out there, even if it's like, Warhorse One, if somebody watches the movie and says, "Oh man, that's awesome, I'm moved to go be a Navy SEAL." How many people have said to me, "Yeah, I watched Black Hawk Down, I joined the Army because of Sugar and Gordon." I mean, unbelievable. Like I've lost count of how many people have said that to me. And maybe for individuals like you, right? How many people have read your story and been like, "I'm going to be a Navy SEAL." Like Marcus Luttrell, that's the guy who, that's it,
I tell the young ones that. I'm like, hey, if you heard our story and you didn't want to be, if it scared you, like that was terrible, I'm glad I wasn't there, then you're not supposed to be.
Yeah.
You're not. But if you read something horrible, like where people were dying, like I wish I was there. That's how you know. Then the training's that's why that comes with showing up and doing the rest of it. But the hook and that you should be somewhere is that feeling. You're like, man, I was supposed to do that. I can feel it.
Well, I'll tell you what, making a movie, starring in a movie is a job unto itself, an entire job unto itself. Directing a movie is its own giant mountain of problems.
Sure.
Writing a movie, same thing. It's like, that's why if you watch a movie, like each one of these roles is a mountain of work. It seems like an impossible task, but by doing it, maybe one day some guy goes, "Oh man, Johnny did that. I'm gonna do that shit. I'm gonna make my own movie."
Oh, everything's done like that. As soon as you see somebody knock it out, you're like, oh, it triggers something else.
Like you said, you got tired of waiting around for someone to create an opportunity for you, and
imagine that life, though, guys. Imagine that life of like just waiting for people, waiting for an opportunity, and all you have to do is go, "Oh, fuck that. I'm going to do it myself. I'll do it myself. I'm going to make it." And then have people, which is crazy, like Mikey, as support. And I'm like, "Yeah, man, we're going to do a movie. Come on up.
Right.
Like you're going to play a part." And then some people go, "Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it'll work or not." And the whole time you got to maintain your vision and go, "No, it's going to be amazing. People are going to be blown away." And at the end of the day, some people are going to connect with it. Some people won't connect with it. Some people are going to love it. Some people are going to hate it.
Some people are going to love to hate it and hate to love it.
You always got the haters.
You got those people too, just like Johnny's saying, when you're trying to break into the industry, where they're like, their first question out of their mouth is, "How much am I going to get paid?" And it's like if that's what you're really doing it for, you're gonna have a really hard time breaking it. For what
that's
I've
the thing
learned,
that's different with us. That wasn't the reason.
Ours isn't a job.
It wasn't a job,
you know
right?
what I mean?
Well, how much does a SEAL get paid?
Oh no.
Exactly.
Not enough.
Right. How much is a SEAL worth though? Like the price tag to make a SEAL.
Well, no, that's expensive.
Do you know what I mean?
Well, that's what I said. I will never do anything that I'm more proud of than being a Marine. And I'm sure it's the same thing with you guys.
We never knew. Matter of fact, I never checked either when I was in. I thought that was the best. I never had to worry. I didn't really worry about anything either, man.
Yeah.
like I do now, and I'm not worried about it. I just worry, and maybe worries are not worried, but I have responsibilities. Like I got to check on that. I got to make sure that's fine. I got to do that. And when we're in, somebody covers that.
You just do what you're told.
You freaking do what you're told, man.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because
there is a bliss in that.
Those aspects, what he's saying about, man, I know actors that if Mikey was like, hey, I'm going to make a movie, they'd be like, oh, you got to talk to my agent. You got to talk to my manager. And then it's a price tag and all this shit. For me, man,
can y'all spot people who show up and are going to get eaten up by the system? I mean, did they act, like the minute they walk in, like, hey, I'm here to be an actor, and like, oh.
Yeah, I mean,
because it can, Hollywood can eat you up, right? It's like, kind of like, it can devour you.
Hollywood is a dangerous place.
It's like Bangkok.
Yeah.
You grew up in it?
It's like Bangkok, right?
It's a dangerous place for some people. And I think it's, if you're not there because you love it and you want to do it and you die to do it, like even doing Warhorse One, there were 2 times I almost died making the movie. Straight up, there was a fall that I almost fell through a crack that was like, 4 feet wide, I was doing this something simple, bro, jumping from one rock to the next and I tripped and fell and almost launched right down a death hole. And then the river sequence when all my gear started to fill up with water and almost drown me. I'd die for that.
You know when the support people and the camera people in the boat are too afraid to get in the river, and they're going to be in a boat, and then Johnny has to jump off into the water.
Well, it's a funny story he's telling. So originally we were going to have people be in a boat in front of me to go down the river.
Yeah, Jack.
And when they came up to shoot that, they pulled me aside and said, we're not doing it. And I was like, all right, let me figure something out. They're like, no, we'll just cut it out of the script. I'm like, nope, it's in the script. That part, that's called a leap of faith. It's what we have to do as human beings. So I was like, how do I do it? And so I tried to convince my friends. I went to one of my buddies. I go, I got this idea. I'm shooting a movie. I'm going to be in a river. You're going to hold the camera and you're going to be in front of me going backwards down the river and we're going to shoot this. And they were like, man, people die in that river every year. We're not doing that.
No, it'll be great.
I got turned down.
No, it's going to be great. Hold my beer.
You don't understand.
We got it, man. We got it. Dude,
like, no, you don't understand. It's a movie. We're doing a movie. And they're like, no, we're not doing it. And I thought of one dude. His name's Blake. Shout out to my boy Blake. And I called him up. I said, this is going to sound crazy, man. How'd you like to go down this river with me? And you're holding the camera and you shoot me going down the river. It's for a movie. And he's like, well, where are we going to do it? And I told him the part of the river that we would do it at. And he said, Johnny, that kills people every year. And I go, yeah, I know, it's going to look amazing.
What time we starting? I got a terrible idea. I'm in. I don't know what it is.
He was like, all right, let's do it.
Yeah, man.
And he showed up and we knocked that fucking thing out of the park, man.
You got to know when those moments present themselves in the beginning, like no one wants to do it, but then there's the one guy who's like, how did you get talked into? He's like, I don't have anything else going on, dude.
I hope you can cut to that scene in the podcast, what he's talking about, because it is so freaking badass. Yeah, that's one of my favorite parts, too, is when you go over and you look at it first and you're like, nah, fuck that.
Yeah.
And then
well, you know what that is?
I love that.
I'll tell you what that is. And this is so a lot of things in the film, I don't know if you caught this, but it's metaphors for life. So I'm a type A personality, and I just recently found out that I have Sigma parts of my I don't know if you know what that is.
So I've heard the term.
I've heard it. And you know what's funny? I've never heard it. And I was sitting there watching a video.
Same here. I'd never heard that growing up.
And I started to listen to this video, and I was like, holy shit, this is like my personality in a nutshell. And then there were some things that weren't, but I'm very type A, but very Sigma. But my type A personality is that I'm not going to quit. And it's an interesting thing, the never quit thing is that kind of thing. Like you push through the suffering or push through whatever it is to make that happen. Man, that totally threw me off. What were we talking about before? Oh, the jump. No, fuck that. So he he looks at the river and he says, "No, fuck that," because he wants to be in control of his destiny. You know, like we all do.
Scene.
We all want to think we're in
scene.
control. He'd rather fight it out from an inferior position with an enemy that has the above ground above him, right? Multiple targets that are being a gunfight with this guy. He'd rather take that chance. And in the middle of that, he realizes, I gotta submit. I gotta.
Team got halfway through that. Just be like, hey man, if I live through this, it's gonna be a great story.
Yeah, well, you know, that's the thing is
do it
that's
because
what
it's
that
gonna be a
is,
great story.
you know.
Oh my God, they're not gonna believe this is gonna be a great story.
And so he has to submit to the fact that, you know, he's not in control. And so he puts it in God's hands. He puts it into the hands of the universe, and he jumps into the river.
Yeah.
So I know we're running out of time here. Is there going to be a sequel?
There is.
There's going to be a sequel.
There is. I'm working on something right now. Wrote it, and we're putting it together for next year. And my buddy Mikey here has a amazing part to reprise his role as Chief Miller.
All right, Mikey. Mikey, how are you going to start preparing for that role?
I gotta keep my techniques under wraps right now, but I'm working on honing my craft right now, which is a totally different discipline from. Yeah, I went from being a Navy SEAL to an entrepreneur, now moving over into the film and television industry. But I'm working, just honing my acting skills with some acting classes and working with Johnny and other actors that I've helped train over the years, and just taking advice from them and being open to how to hone my craft better.
Don't go to acting class.
So how can
I've
people...
heard that.
That's my best advice.
I've had other guys tell me that.
You said don't go to acting
Don't
class?
go.
Yeah. You know, the thing is do you love Mike?
He's all right.
Do you love Mike?
Yeah.
I love Mike because he's Mike.
Yeah.
We all actually love
Sam?
Yeah.
Yeah. We tolerate Mike?
Yeah.
The funny thing is, it's like you do kind of get that from like certain actors will be like, don't go to acting class, you're wasting your time. But then it's just like team guys, they go ahead and tell you all their lessons learned. Yeah. But then I learned from them, like guys like Johnny, and other actors, they help, train with tactics.
I heard
and
someone
stuff.
said for Stallone or for Schwarzenegger to lose his accent. He's just like, you hear one thing. I think it depends on the individual.
They wanted him to change his name.
Everything, right?
You know what his first name was?
No.
In Hercules? Do you know? What?
His real name?
Yeah, we just watched this documentary on him.
He changed his name in Hercules, I believe it was, to Arnold Strong.
Oh, you mean they wanted to change? Yeah,
they wanted to change Schwarzenegger because it was too.
That new documentary name was great.
It was.
I haven't seen that yet.
It was great.
Oh yeah, you guys.
That guy was one of my pillars in life. The disciplinarians guided me, and he that last one.
Yeah, he throws it all out on the table for sure.
I'd like to see
what an American tale.
Yeah.
Question about the sequel too.
Yes,
Will
ma'am.
there be bathrooms on set while
No.
filming, or are we using a shit shovel?
We're going back to the top of the mountain.
Real quick before we end the podcast, I want to talk about the shit shovel. So, with dudes, right? If I invited you up to go hang out and do some weird shit in the mountains, I would assume that you wouldn't give a shit about taking a shit in the woods. Right? It's actually one of my favorite things to do.
Well, now you made it weird.
Yeah. So, but I'm sitting there and I didn't even think about it. So I got all these dudes playing seals and and then I'm like, Sam shows up and I'm like, oh man, how do I tell her she's got to dig a hole and take a shit in it? Like, I don't know.
Because we're up there for a week. I'm like asking her,
Yeah,
I
so
can't understand peeing, but where do I go to the bathroom?
And then we're making the announcement, and it's like you hold it up like it's the conch in the Lord of the Flies, and you're like, this is the shit shovel. If you got to take care of your business, take care of your business. I remember seeing Sam's face like,
I'm
look at Mike and just be like, I'm going to kill you.
Nope.
She's like, there's not even a porta-john up here. We walked up a donkey trail. Like it took us almost a whole day to get up here.
The lucky thing about her, she doesn't actually do that particular anomaly that we have to.
That's what I told him.
Girls don't poop.
We only got the funding for one helicopter, and it's not going to be with a porta-john.
I did not. But I go one time.
You did?
I'd rather
I got
no.
your back.
Be honest.
I asked him. I did not go
didn't
one
go-
time.
Not one time. Mel, my wife, they would.
She's
Yeah,
like,
They
I
would
said,
never
I'll
go.
die.
She's like, I'll die up here before I
Before anybody.
Dude, before anyone sees me grab that shit shovel. And he has it like by the fire.
And I hate
Yeah,
you
why
can bet
not?
guys were waiting
What it is.
Oh, yeah.
for her to do that.
Nope, not a chance.
Right?
Put it out.
You
the front.
know.
Not a chance was I grabbing the shit shovel, dude.
When she walked out of that tent every morning, we're like,
And that's the thing too, because when it snowed, we could hardly get out of our tent. So we're just laying there, Mike's just sticking out, peeing. I'm like, what the fuck do I do? I gotta go out there?
is this some Spies Like Us kind of moment up there on the tent with all the, right?
Oh yeah, dude, what a great movie. That's one of my favorites.
So
That's-
good.
Yeah. But it was that was an interesting moment with Sam.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the sequel, not much is going to change.
Okay.
It's going to be, making a movie, or at least the way I approach making movies, is like, I'm not doing it for money. I don't care about being famous. I don't want to do this for reasons that other people do it. This is just, my offering to God, to the Creator, is to make that connection, So I tell people that are going to be involved with it, like, that's what we're doing. If that's what you want to do, if you're okay with, spiritual expression, like, that's what we're doing it for. Like,
Yeah.
if it makes money, great. If we don't make money, great. It is what it is. But let's make something special, so that it's for us. The people who make it, is so that we can be satisfied with that expression, and then maybe inspire somebody.
This particular genre, is this what's captivated you, or do you foresee anything different in the future? Because Mike was kind of talking about it,
Good
like,
question.
what I mean?
Diving into new roles.
I
Is there anything else that captures you, or I know right now we're in a war environment. Everything we see on TV,
like
and
comedy. You gonna tap into any comedy?
listen.
We did talk about that.
Yeah, so
because if you can do this, you can do comedy.
yeah, listen. I love in my daily life, I love joking around. But I don't know if people want to see me do that in movies.
Oh, right, yeah.
I think there's a fan base for my work that is like, I just want to see Johnny run guns and do stuff
Sure.
like that. That's it's like people loved watching Clint Eastwood.
I know exactly what you're
Play a
talking
cowboy,
about. That's what he does. I want to see him doing that. Yeah.
And it's a skill set that I have, so I might as well do it. I would love to do a comedy. I would love to do stories. And the other thing too about movies is, if you want to make them outside of the studio system, there's two forms that you can actually like make a movie and sell a movie, and that's action movies and horror movies.
For minimal amounts of money, right? We're talking about shows like Blair Witch, that back in the day when there was just a couple kids getting
that's a great
together,
Yeah, Blair Witch.
Yeah.
and then turns into
Yeah, and
Yeah.
but if you wanted to make a love story about a guy who's just loves his flowers in a garden, good luck selling that movie, bro. You're never going to sell that to anybody.
depends on who you got in it, right?
But
You got
if you do a story with Marcus Luttrell, a guy who loves his flowers in a garden, but his neighbor is trying to kill the garden,
Right.
poison it, and Luttrell's got to do what he's got to do to keep his garden
The scene
alive.
was Luttrell in a
That's
garden
different.
trying to crank a lawnmower with no gas in it. Some of the funniest things I've ever seen, this just happened to me the other day, is when dudes and machines, right?
Oh yeah.
Trying to, we're getting off topic.
So two things
Yeah.
real quick
Yeah,
before
go
we do
ahead.
cut off here. How do people follow you? How can I follow and get news and updates about the sequel, about Warhorse One now? How can I follow you?
And don't follow me.
Don't follow you.
Social media is cancer, and that stuff is not really what I'm into. But you can check out the film on iTunes or Amazon
Okay.
or Vudu or any of the digital outlets. They'll have the film available. You can follow Mikey or Sambo, or Mikey and Sambo.
And Mikey is
You can follow me on Instagram @ForgeMike,
okay.
or you can just follow Samantha, and she actually does a lot more of my posting than I
They're
actually
probably
do.
already following.
Yeah.
How about the
We know who
Warhorse
runs the
One
show around here, man.
tag?
Can
we get that?
Operator Films, Warhorse One is the Instagram for
On
that.
Instagram, right?
For the movie. Yeah, and then other than that, just if you hear about a movie that we're doing or something like that, just go check it out. Maybe it's something.
Well, we're going to bring you back on for the next one too.
All right.
We'll have you back out.
I'd love to be here.
And is there anyone you want to give a shout out to? Thanks, sponsors that helped with the movie, or anyone? Or?
I mean, there's a lot of people involved in the film, and I wish you would have told me that. I would have made a list of everybody. But for those that, the best thing I could say about that, next time tell me. The best.
She ran you right into that one, bro.
I just try to remember Morgan doing that.
No, I get it. Yeah, it's great. No, it's
like,
on point, bro. That's on point.
Here's what I could say is
nice
to
job,
everybody,
Marine.
to everybody who believed in it and who gave everything that they could to make it a masterpiece, to those people, I thank them from the bottom of my heart. For other people that were involved that didn't do that, it is what it is. Good luck with everything else.
Outstanding.
Well, thanks, brother. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, brother. I appreciate it.
Thank you for letting me-
This is the Team Never Quit podcast. So buckle up, Buttercup.